After Wolverine, Scott Summers is probably the most famous and well-liked mutant in the X-Men universe. Created by comic book maestros Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, Scott Summers, or Cyclops, has the mutant ability to shoot raw kinetic energy out of his eyes. The only way he can control it is through special glasses. With his beau, Jean Grey, Scott Summers has had a lot of adventures, and is the stereotypical hero America loves. But in other parts of the multiverse, there are evil and terrorizing versions of Cyclops, and today, we're looking into one of these versions called the Basilisk. Before going into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The start of a tragic life. Scott Summers' early childhood on Earth 11326 is a bit of a mystery. The first time we hear of him is when he's 14 years old. Scott, unaware that he's a mutant, visits a movie theater hosting a John Wayne festival. While watching the movie, his powers kick in, and powerful beams of energy shoot out of his eyes, killing 7 people, including his mother and father. Cops immediately arrive to arrest him. According to the information on his prison file, Scott's brother Alex was killed for resisting arrest during Operation Clean Sweep. His other brother Gabriel was taken to the Barton Howell Research Facility in an induced coma. For 2 years, Scott was imprisoned in a holding facility at Buffalo, after which, thanks to the Emergency Powers Act, he was taken to Alcatraz. As the animosity against mutants increased, Alcatraz became a specialized facility for mutants, under the rule of prison governor Harcourt Teasdale. Teasdale was a cruel, sadistic man who enjoyed torturing and killing mutants. He even held games for the mutants imprisoned in Alcatraz, and because of this earned the nickname Arcade. When Scott was brought to Alcatraz, Arcade took an interest in him, and began experimenting. He found out that ruby quartz helped inhibit Scott's powers, so he had a special mask made, fitted with ruby quartz covering his eyes. He had Scott's eyelids surgically removed, so that he could not stop the energy output on his own, and used a remote to open and close Scott's mask. Arcade named Scott the Basilisk, and used him to execute other mutant prisoners in Alcatraz. Hope towards something new. During one of these executions, Scott was wheeled in on a special mechanism that completely immobilized him, and Arcade pressed the button to open his mask, despite Scott begging him not to do it. After the mutants in front of him were completely burnt up, Arcade taunted Scott, asking him whether his kill count had reached 3 digits yet. Deciding that enough was enough, Scott swore revenge against Arcade in that very moment. When he was being wheeled back into his cell again, he pressed the remote on the unsuspecting guard and blasted out of his shackles. He freed all the prisoners there and asked them to escape. Before escaping, he made sure to take his revenge against Arcade. Though reinforcements that arrived later found Arcade's body, it was so badly damaged they couldn't determine the cause of death. In prison, Scott had learned about Magneto, his fight for mutant rights, and the safe haven he had created for them called Fortress X. So he headed there to join the cause. Unfortunately, because of all the trauma he had experienced, he couldn't make a lot of friends and remained withdrawn. He didn't like talking about his past and actively avoided questions about it. But his secretive ways didn't rob him from finding true love, and he soon married Frenzy, a fellow mutant fighter whose real name is Joanna Cargill. Exposing the truth about Fortress X. A force field wall protected the small world that the mutants had made for themselves, and nearly every day they had to fight human soldiers that tried to take over Fortress X. One day, Catherine Pride arrived at the fortress, claiming that she had been outside, and that there was nothing outside the wall, not even sky or stars. Just plain void. She's taken prisoner and nearly everyone, including Scott, dismisses her. But things suddenly begin to seem fishy when Scott kills a human soldier with the same dog tags as the soldier he'd killed days earlier. When Legacy, a mutant in Fortress X, begins to ask questions about the outer world, she's hunted down as a traitor. The incident pushes Wolverine to reach out to Scott. Together, they decide to investigate. Scott gets a chance to share his doubts with the others when the armies attacking them do not show up the next day. Box, who had been observing the stars, added to his doubts, saying that there was no red or blue shift characteristics to them. Having had enough proof, Scott abandons his position and announces that he's gonna go look for answers. All the other mutants except Cannonball agreed with him. Scott got more proof about his doubts when Professor Charles Xavier reached out to him telepathically. The professor told him that everything in his world, from the fortress to the opposing armies to their own lives, was all a fantasy, created by a rogue personality of Legion, Charles' son. They realize that the persona is Moira, and she launches an attack against them, claiming that Professor Xavier is a liar. As punishment for listening to Xavier, she creates a huge army of humans who launch an attack on the fortress. Scott and Wolverine join the mutants in fighting against the human army. Though they're outnumbered, the mutants do not give up. The war finally ends when Legion reabsorbs Moira and erases the army she created. When he restores reality, Scott is back on Earth 616, but with all the terrible memories from the Age of X. He decides to have his memory of that period erased completely. And who would blame him? The world is traumatic enough. Why add on more trauma created from the fantasy of a rogue personality? More info about Basilisk. Created by Clay Mann and Mike Carey, Basilisk first appeared in January 2011, in the first issue of the Age of X Alpha. He looks like what Scott Summers of Earth 616 would look like if he had bulked up. The mask that Basilisk wears is also different from the eyewear that we've seen the regular Scott wear. While Scott's everyday eyewear simply has a band around them that can be removed whenever, Basilisk's mask is made of solid metal that goes around his face, covering his ears. Basilisk is probably the strongest version of Scott, as the upper limit of his power is unknown. Like his Earth 616 version, he's incredibly loyal to the mutant cause, and is motivated by the guilt of killing so many mutants. Marvelous verdict. If Basilisk and Scott Summers of Earth 616 were hypothetically in a fight, who do you think would win? Our bet is on Basilisk, because he is clearly stronger physically, and his mutant powers too seem to be superior to that of the regular Scott. Tell us in the comments whether you agree or disagree. It's goodbye for now, but don't worry, we'll soon be back with more amazing content for you. See you soon! And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone!